Hey, How to Make a Killing. Thanks for stopping by. Just want to go over your performance. First of all, great job nabbing Glen Powell. Oh, you know what? Your shoes are untied. Yeah, why don't you turn around and take care of that? Yep. Yep, just take care of those laces. Don't fight it. More like how to miss an opportunity, am I right? Look, I believe in Glen Powell. I believe in his movie stardom. I root for him. But between this and last year's The Running Man, even though I liked it, I'm not sure he's picking the projects that are best for him. Because even though he has the charm and the looks and the comedic timing, you gotta do a lot more than that to stay relevant in today's psycho movie hellscape. So a mediocre riff on Alec Guinness's Kind Hearts and Coronets, while it might seem the right satirical move for today's modern world, for Powell, even though it's only been a few years of his stardom, it already seems like old hat. Glen Powell stars as Beckett Redfellow. Yes, that's his name. The bastard child of his wealthy mom, who was disowned by her father and thus kicked out of her inheritance. Now Beckett is all grown up with a nowhere job and he wants back at that money. Thus, he devises a scheme to knock off all 7 family members ahead of him in the inheritance. His plan seems to go off without a hitch until he falls in love, gets a better job, and realizes that his greed might actually be getting in the way of him being happy. Does the satire work? Does the humor work? Does Glen Powell work? And well, this is another in a recent spate of movies that doesn't know if it wants to be a true dark comedy or a more serious thriller. Because if it's trying to be a dark comedy, its murders aren't very inventive and its jokes are almost non existent. And if it's trying to be a satirical thriller, it's not very thrilling in how it puts the squeeze on Beckett, and its satire isn't anything we haven't already seen the past few years. Then there's Glen Powell, who has played this easygoing, charming, but a little shady character before. He doesn't do anything here that he doesn't do better in Hitman, Richard Linklater's crime comedy from 2 years ago. That really was the announcement for Powell, that he can do leading man, that he can add layers, that he can do comedy, they can be a little dark, and that he can be sexy. Hitman is pretty much the platonic ideal of this movie, and it takes a filmmaker like a Linklater to pull off tonal shifts that this movie is attempting. I enjoyed director John Patton Ford's first movie, Emily the Criminal, with Aubrey Plaza. It was a similar story about a person in dire straits going towards a life of crime and getting in over their head. But while Emily was easy to root for, Beckett is a whole other story. He's part of a wealthy family. He just doesn't have access to that money yet. So the movie has to work extra hard to get us to sympathize with Beckett and to make us root for him as he's knocking off all these despicable rich people. Once Beckett falls for the girlfriend of one of his victims, played by Jessica Henwick, then the movie has to do backflips over why he isn't just content with what he has. Because if you ask me, Jessica Henwick is worth way more than any fortune. Yes, even in the billions. There's also Margaret Qualley in femme fatale mode who complicates Beckett's scheme. She's sly and slinky and sexy, but she never feels ruthless enough, evil enough. She needs to be the worst out of all these rich people. That's the thing about this movie and the plot mechanics. These rich people seem more like nuisances than actual threats or actual obstacles. And Beckett kills them pretty easily. Not in any cool or creative ways, he kind of just lucks into it. This is the type of dark comedy where each time we get to a new rich son of a bitch, we should be eager and waiting with bated breath on how they're going to bite it. Each murder should get more and more outlandish. It should escalate more and more. The screw should tighten more and more on Beckett. But after about 5 of the murders, things kind of stagnate until we get to the end, where lo and behold, the final boss is Ed Harris. And like the other actors in this movie, Ed Harris is doing Ed Harris stuff you've seen a million times before. So the movie's not as clever as it should be, it's not as funny as it should be, and it's not as surprising as it needs to be. Thus, How to Make a Killing becomes an in their sleep movie. What Glen Powell, Margaret Qualley, Ed Harris, and even the director are doing, and hell, even what A24 is doing producing this, they can all do in their sleep. And it makes me a little worried for Glen Powell, because this movie is not going to be a hit. And The Running Man was not a hit. So for Glen Powell, killing a bunch of rich assholes is nothing for him. Surviving the ruthlessness of Hollywood is probably another story. How to Make a Killing has all the ingredients for a pitch-perfect black comedy. Fortunately, it can't commit to tone, laughs, or satire. I give How to Make a Killing a forgettable 2.5 stars out of 5. If you like this review, please like and subscribe or follow me on Letterboxd at RamirezS316. This has a really good cast too. Everyone in supporting parts are pretty good. Topher Grace shows up as a slimy preacher, and then there's Zach Woods, who's probably the funniest performance in the film. And then there's Henwick, who, I'm gonna be honest, she should have the career that Margaret Qualley has now. Yeah, I said it. You wanna come after me? Come after me.